am not late. I am here, my friend. Just turning up at the time that I need to turn up. You know, the market don't open really for the next 30 minutes. I'm going to chew your ears off and let you know about this triple witching event, which Bitcoin seems to be taking a little bit of a tumble to the downside. But it's all good, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the expiry of the triple witching event, which is options markets, okay? Stock options, indices, equities, you name it, okay? They're all expiring today. Now, we can see in cryptocurrency that we've got some movement to the downside, and today's live stream is just going to help you understand what we could expect from Bitcoin, from other assets across the board, because the general tone right now is, yeah, man, we got the rate cut. Everything's all good. Let's now go back to business as usual. Now, last night, we got a little bit of help. Bank of Japan has said that they're not going to be cutting the interest rates, but there was some inkling that they could actually do something in October. So a few of the members of the board were like, yeah, but we really need to increase the interest rate, sorry. And that kind of might make the market a little bit hesitant. Today, though, we're going to dive into a couple of things. I'm going to introduce you into a couple of stocks. We've got some movement on some IPOs that are doing really well. And one in particular, being a semiconductor stock, is actually killing it right now. So this could be one for you guys to keep on your radar. With that being said, I'm going to dive into some Bitcoin liquidations. Looking at the open interest, a lot of people are expecting Bitcoin to make some movement to the upside. And we've had some pretty decent activity happening in the stablecoin market, which means that we could be in line for some volatility over the weekend because there's a lot of players positioning themselves with USDC. Why are you playing with USDC, man? Anything to do with Circle? Maybe. Who knows? So let's break it all down, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, triple witching. Let's make sense of the madness that's unfolding. So here we go. So yeah, it's been a very, very interesting week to say the least. Quickly going over into the NASDAQ to have a look at the volume over there on the weekly. You can see NASDAQ is at all-time highs on the composite. And remember, the composite is made up of all the tech stocks that are listed in the United States NASDAQ exchange. Now, you can see here at the bottom that we've got volume so far. It looks like it's not finishing, but at the end of today, volume, if it doesn't pick up, then we've got this story of it finishing below average. It needs to be above this red line if you look on the bottom right of the screen. But the good thing is with this expiry that's coming into play, we are going to see some form of volatility. Now, looking at the price action, you've got Bitcoin right here. It's a 3-hour time frame. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. Looking at Bitcoin, you can see it's starting to pull back away from this key 117, 118 region. Didn't get taken out. But we've seen the corrective move going into the Asian session per se. Just quickly going over to other assets. Ethereum's had the day off. And of course, it ain't really doing too much. It's spending a lot of time around and towards its all-time high. We can see right there, it's doing very, very well. And the last time a cryptocurrency did this, it went on to explode. And that was Bitcoin when it hit the all-time high of 74,000-ish. We just quickly go over to that. You can see it was this consolidation over here. Where are we? No, it was this one. This was the consolidation period where Bitcoin made the all-time high, 74,000-ish, and then consolidated for such a long time. And then it exploded to come back, retrace, and then continue with its narrative to the upside. Bitcoin and Ethereum are both doing the same thing. There is a lot of things happening behind the scenes, but I do believe that they are preparing for some volatility coming into the near future. With this being said, you can see over here, USDC exchange inflows hit 1.3 billion, the highest in over 4 years. Usually when you see an accumulation of stable coins building up on exchanges, it means that investors are getting ready to put that to work. So there is a chart that we look at, and that is the UST dominance. Now, let me explain something to you about this chart. This is not a chart that's based on technical analysis, in my opinion. This chart is based on the sentiment of investors when the idea of value comes into play. That's what you've got to consider. At the same time, if you start looking at the way things are in terms of interest rates, then naturally you will understand that the yield on the dollar is starting to decrease. So logic says that you would apply that logic over here in principle, but you do and you don't. But the best way you've got to look at it is highlight areas in this chart that show you psychological impressions when someone believes Bitcoin is expensive or someone believes Bitcoin is on the cheap. Here's an example. Down here, there was the expectation around the 4% mark that those who were in dollar itself believed that Bitcoin was expensive. At the same time, they thought it was cheap because you can see a V-shaped reversal here. So as USDT dominance goes down, Bitcoin starts to climb. And then you can see the green vectors coming into play. This is what triggered investors to sell the Bitcoin and go into USDT. Now, if you look left, you can see you've got this area of influence, which is the same area that started the move back up for USDT, is the same area that price had come down again, where Bitcoin itself had made significant moves to the upside. We look even further to the left and we can make the assumption that the biggest psychological area for USDT right now would be this area down here at the 3.74 region. That would then give Bitcoin its move to the upside to the all-time high. And it would start off by taking this move out here. So if we see USDT dominance coming back into this vector zone where psychologically investors were transacting on dollar to go back to take out some positions in Bitcoin, we can then say, okay, then if this starts to come down here, we could assume that that would be the all-time high for Bitcoin. Would I start taking some profits from that zone? Okay, because the same players that were there before started to take profits. It's the same spot that we can expect other people to take profits too. But if they do lose this 4% region, then that means this would be the next spot. That could take Bitcoin's price to 130K, 135 or 145. It all depends on the volatility of Bitcoin. But when we see the buildup of this behavior right here, it's telling us that investors are starting to position themselves into risk on. Why? Because interest rates are being cut, and that's a good thing. Speaking of which, going back into it all, we've got the triple witching event, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, that's going to be fueling a lot of volatility across the board. Quickly going over into the NASDAQ just to break it all down for you. Going over to the options. Well, yeah, just go to the NASDAQ first. Whoa, hold on. There we go. Bloody hell. It's the 4-hour time frame NASDAQ. Come on. There you are. All right, so NASDAQ itself coming into a little bit of a move to the upside. It's, again, making higher moves. It's looking like it wants to take its all-time high. Again, going into the smaller time frames, hourly, you can see it's just a nice little flow upwards. You've got to be very careful with NASDAQ because when it floats upwards before the market opens, can usually mean that they're front-running price, and then price could effectively start to roll over from that point. Now, speaking of which, about crypto, just to put things into perspective, we've got an ETF now trading on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. Poland, how cool is that? It says here, first cryptocurrency ETF now trading in Poland with currency protection. Bitcoin access via regulated futures on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So it did see a turnover about 1.9 billion. Warsaw ETF turnover hits 1.9 billion with 94% growth this year. So, you know, the actual ETF itself is starting to get traction across the board. Speaking of the ETF itself, let's have a look at where we are with that bad boy and break it all down. So where we are for inflows, outflows. I mean, today haven't updated just yet, but we go into the actual amounts and we're at 764,993. Not really that much of a change right now. Still stalling at that highs right there. And the ETF itself is trading negative in the pre-markets. Going over to the ETF price itself, you can see $66 a share, or an ETF contract. We've got a gap down right here, which is now looking like it's being filled because of Bitcoin's price. Now, Bitcoin itself currently playing out a very, currently playing out a very interesting drop to the downside towards the psychological levels, which is very important. Just to put it into perspective as well, today we do have a very important announcement. We have got Donald Trump. Where is it? Donald Trump is going to be talking to China today. He's talking to Xi Jinping regarding the TikTok buyout. All right. Hopefully something is said. Where is it? Here we go. Investors will be also focusing on a phone call between President Donald Trump and Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping later on Friday. And it's going to be a conversation about the fate of TikTok. Okay. I mean, TikTok itself is an economy when you think about it. A lot of people work off there. So if people in the US don't get access to that, that's going to be a bit of a problem for people in the US. But of course, that's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say. Will there be any talks of trade in that, in the tariff story? We don't know, but something you've got to take into consideration when you are listening in on what could be a conversation between Trump and China is news articles, news vendors will throw out comments that are being heard. And not so much heard, but you know, someone could be saying the conversation sounds good. They'll put that out to the marketplace. The market will react. Or the conversation sounds a little bit hostile. The market will react. So just be mindful of that when you are actually trading today, ladies and gentlemen. Now, going into it, I wanted to touch up on something. Here is a list of IPO stocks, okay? Now, this is for the week, all right? And as it stands right now, these are the list of stocks that have recently had their IPOs and how they are performing. And one right here, A-Lab, is doing very, very well. I'm going to bring that up for you over here. Asteria Labs, can't even say it properly. Astera, whatever. Anyways, it's an electronic semiconductor company, designs semiconductor-based connectivity solutions to unleash the potential of cloud and AI infrastructure. So let me explain something to you about sectors, okay? When you've got a stock, right, NVIDIA, cloud-based computing, Google, cloud, Microsoft, cloud, you know, they're all focusing on cloud-based solutions. This is a company that they would more than likely turn to, okay? So it's like a third-party vendor, for example. Third party creates the semiconductor, and then Google would Google being the third party as such, would then go and put it to work, and Google will sell their services based on whatever this company could be forming. We don't know if they're buying from them exactly, but the way it usually works in the stock market is you've got the leader, and then the leader in that sector, what's he doing? Is he providing the same service as someone else in that sector? If he's not, then there's a good chance that he's going to that supplier to get what he needs to get to go over and then sell it to his clients, okay? Now, Astera Labs themselves, they design semiconductor-based connectivity solutions. So we know that anyone wants to get into cloud-based computing is more than likely going to come to these guys and say, look, I need you to build me something. I've got this product. I need this product. I need this from you. Let's get into bed and let's start doing some business, okay? And you can see that as an IPO, it has done absolutely fantastic at the start. $41 billion market cap. That is brilliant. And you can just see it's just sailing. Any semiconductor-based company, right, is absolutely ripping it apart across the board. And inside of the company itself, you've got lots of data here. 50% on research and development. That is awesome. 616 funds hold this stock, all right? And 46% of stock fund owners are actively playing around with this stock. Looking at their quarterly earnings, you can see at the bottom, they are doing absolutely awesome. Look at this. So December 31st, 2024, earnings were 200%, 208%, and the sales were 179%. Perfect. Then we go to March 31st, 267%, 144% on sales. And then we go into the final quarter here at June 2025. You got 238% earnings and 150% on sales. What is that showing you? It's showing you stellar, consistent earnings. Is this the next NVIDIA? Because the market cap's doing really well. It's in the billions, but not quite the trillions, but it's doing very well from an earnings perspective. And that is something you need to be looking into when you are buying a stock. Look at what's going on overall, and then look to what's going on with the company. How aggressive are their earnings and their sales on a quarterly basis? Don't look at how price action is on one day. Look at what it's doing over a period of time, because you can then make the assumption that fund owners are going to be buying on the dip and then continuing with the narrative to the upside. Quickly breaking down our favorite asset, Circle, right now. I am getting ready to start buying this bad boy. You can see that partnerships are coming into play with Circle. I believe there is another partnership that's going to be announced soon. Just reading on the wire as such, but we don't know who. But we are understanding that they're getting ready to start putting things to work. We're seeing accumulation on the volume at the bottom right here. Again, I'm not interested in these quarterly results just yet, because they're starting to get new partnerships, new contracts, new money coming in. And given that there is a lot of activity happening with the stablecoin market, given that it's hit a high on exchanges, on the amounts that sat in there, it's making me believe that, okay, Circle is going to start getting the benefit of that, because if you notice, the main thing is it's USDC, and that's, of course, exactly what Circle is all about. But what I'm actually looking for as a price projected target for the future, I'm expecting it to come and clear out its IPO. Clear it out all day. I mean, again, just look at this company over here, Astera Labs. They are en route. Where is it? Here we go. Look, they've cleared out their IPO. They've cleared it out. They hit it. They come back below, and then they come and cleared it again. Utility, service, contracts, sentiment. This is what fuels stock. This is what fuels the idea of an investor's logic that in the future, value will be sought for. Value is being created right now with Circle, and the idea is that the future will provide the result of that value, and they will continuously be developing value in the company by going into merger and acquisitions or going into partnerships with other companies and exchanges, okay? Once you're listed on the stock market, that's it. You've got endorsement all day. You've got regulatory endorsement all day, and that gives confidence to investors, which is why paying attention to the number of fund owners that are sat in Circle and growing It's now at 126. I want to see if it can get to 130. Then I'm going to start buying this asset and start taking advantage of it because I've seen accumulation coming into play. It is at the lows. 140 it looks like it's a nice spot, and we can definitely start to see it climb back up again. Okay. Now, if you don't know where to buy it, you can buy it on an exchange like this. So you can go over to BTCC. The link's in the description where you can get the Traders Reality link, and you get a benefit of 10% deposit bonus on up to 100K, I believe it is. Okay. But so it's 10 grand. So you basically get 10 grand. If you deposit 100K, you get 10 grand basically. Not if you get 100K. But anyways, but you can trade the BT Circle. You can trade cryptocurrency based stocks on this. So you got Circle, you've got Bullish. Look at Bullish, ladies and gentlemen. We've had our eye on Bullish, haven't we? BLSH, here we go. Look at this. Not bad. I've kept you guys in the scope with these bad boys. Bullish has done very, very well. Earnings per share. Earnings come out 200% plus. Sales 18%. That's awesome. And it's just come from its IPO. More than likely going to start sailing towards that. But of course, make sure you're just keeping an eye out on risk to reward. Don't just go and put the flipping house down because we speak so well about these assets. I'm getting ready to buy these assets. Looking at this, you can see here, we've got no announcement on fund ownership just yet. I believe we're probably going to see about 5-6 fund owners coming into play. And well, what's interesting about this is 71% of the stock is owned by management. So that's easily going to influence price to start climbing up. So just take that into consideration and just keep an eye out on Bullish. But you can trade it. You can trade it. So difference is how you're going to play this. You can trade it on BTCC, okay? Or you can invest it on another platform, all right? But trading it on BTCC, and you can buy and sell it on other platforms. It depends on how you want to do it. But as a portfolio, you can trade stocks on here and the indices, gold and Forex. So it's worthy to check out because you can really hedge yourself on this platform. If one thing's not working in crypto, you can go elsewhere. Okay. Speaking of which, let's now get into some Bitcoin and understand exactly what we're dealing with today. So firstly, let's go into the options, not the options, but let's look at the open interest on where we are right now with positions across the board. So again, this open interest chart is very important to look at because we can identify areas of interest on Bitcoin. Top side, 121,000 is where we got 642 million in open interest. Bottom range right here, we've got 715 at 111,801. Going into the order flow to put it into perspective, let's go over to Bitcoin and have a look at where we are with that. So the order flow is starting to give me some interesting behavior. You can see that Bitcoin is on a progressive climb. For every time it comes back, you've got bids. Moves up, bid side. See these greens? Bid side, bid side, bid side. We're actively now working a bid side move. That means prices are coming down and participants are either getting liquidated on their longs and those orders have been placed, and or people are passively sat in the book waiting for Bitcoin's price to get to a level that they can buy from. As you can see here, we've got quite a few bids coming into action. We've got 37 million at 115,111. And then we go up a little bit more. We got 40 million at 115,300. Go up a little bit more. And we have just nothing really significant just yet. We did have a transacted amount over here, 3 million at 116,100. But going into last night, we saw 20 million cleared at 116,650. So we can see that quite a few long traders are being liquidated in this range, but equally you can see that the offers are starting to pile up. And there was a high concentration of offers coming into play. At the top side over here, we had 12 million sold at 117,700. But what you've got to look for when you're using a platform like this, you've got to say to yourself, right, where is their activity? Because if we didn't see these amount of offers or bids, then I wouldn't be entertaining Bitcoin because you're not seeing the volume coming in. If you don't see the volume, then there's nothing for you to transact on, all right? You will see volume, but not that much. Here, we can have a good understanding that at some point, the bids are going to get engaged and they're going to want to offer higher. Is the triple witching event going to put it into perspective? Because what we're witnessing is Bitcoin's going down, and then we go over to the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ is climbing up. So now we've got that disparity where you've got bid side Bitcoin coming down to buy, and NASDAQ is going up, but Bitcoin's coming down. Logic says that people are like, oh my God, why is Bitcoin going down against the stock market? Is the decoupling process coming into play? Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, they were bidding bidding Asia in the Asian session for the NASDAQ, and Bitcoin was doing the same thing. But now NASDAQ is moving back up again, all right? which equally means that if there is concern about Bitcoin, look at it from the volatility index perspective. Is anybody hedging themselves right now? No, because the VIX is coming down, right? So that means they're actively looking for risk. Oil is trading lower, so we don't need to worry about that. And the S&P can climb up nicely because it's made up of transportation stocks. They usually get the hit when oil prices are a little bit lower, but it's good for them because it means that they can do business and it's not costing them as much money. But when you go and have a look at other assets like gold, for example, gold is currently just going sideways. I believe they're actually in accumulation of gold. Currently, right now, there is a new stock being listed, an IPO for this company, a gold company. And where is it? Here we go. It's further down here. Here we are. So where is it? I just saw it. I just saw that there was a stock that's recently being listed. Here we go. Zinj Gold, okay? And Zinj Gold International is seeking to raise 25 billion and 3.2 billion for an initial public offering in Hong Kong, okay? So that's going to naturally attract investors across the seas. I mean, you know, that is very good news when it comes to gold. Why would that be some interesting point in gold? I mean, China, what are they doing with gold as given that they're one of the largest holders right now? Anyways, let's put that to bed. Let's quickly go and have a look at liquidations on Bitcoin just to get some traction on where we are with it all. So let's have a look at the heat map and take a look at Bitcoin in that sense. Go over all exchanges, click that bad boy and the look back. Let's just go and have a look at the last 3 days on what we've got going off on Bitcoin in line with this triple witching event. So you can see here that we've got just a relatively decent amount of liquidation. So price is just all the way down here. And you can see that we've got high concentration up here, 118,000. 118,000 realistically is the spot. And you've got this empty space right now. So the market, in my opinion, could easily just go gun for liquidity to the downside and equally reverse. But of course, the triple witching event is going to put that into perspective for us. Euro making a nice little reversal to the downside, well, move to the downside. Going into it, dollar dominance is starting to climb up, getting ready to come and clear that 97.5 region on the red vector candle region itself. Going into the stock market, Nvidia is currently gapping down ever so slightly, but Intel, man, is getting some interest, man. Intel is getting some interest right now. 5 billion from Nvidia, 10 billion from the US government. Like, they're really trying to save this company. But let's just go and have a look at the metrics of Intel just for a second. Put it into perspective for you. Here we go. So if you were buying the stock of Intel with all this investment that's coming into play, right? They've had a reduction in their fund ownership from 3,014 to 22,928. Now, when we actually go look at their quarterly results, you can see they're absolutely doing dog. All right, it's not great. But when you've got your main competitor, Nvidia, coming in and investing in you, it's game, set, and match. You know, they just need them to be a factory for them. Can we actually get you to build more of our stuff? Because we need the help. That is so dead when your competitors are like, listen, we'll help you out. We just need you to build this. And there's your product. And you're like, what the hell am I doing with this product now? You know, it's like BMW, Rolls-Royce. You know, the chassis of the Rolls-Royce is really BMW. So who's struggling? You know, it's an interesting one. This is what I found out. A Rolls-Royce chassis, okay, the frame is a BMW. That kills the idea of buying a Rolls-Royce now, doesn't it? Now, on the hood, it's all good. But it's BMW. How dead is that? Anyways, back into it. I'm not to tell you that, guys. BNB is still going, still doing really well. Nearly cleared that $1,000 mark. That is wild. Okay, so any questions, ladies and gentlemen, just before we get the market open? Any questions do we have? Do you liked the stream? Probably not. That's terrible. Yeah, well, listen, this is what the problem's been. Nvidia is only investing in America right now. Well, it's actually agreed to the 15% turnover on the revenue. Because if they didn't agree to that, it would cost them 50 billion. Whereas if they agree to what they've agreed, which is what they've done, they're only paying 3 billion. China doesn't like that. Anyways. AMD is Intel's main competitor, not Nvidia. Yeah, I know. I get that. But what I'm saying to you in the space, all right? My computer right now is a desktop that's made up of Nvidia flavor, all right? Where's my Intel? Ain't no Intel here. The fact is, I'm buying an NVIDIA computer with a graphics card from NVIDIA. Happy days. That's my computer. All right, Intel processor and all that stuff. I get all of that. But still, it's in the same industry. Okay? So if it wasn't a competitor, why would it buy it? Obviously, he's buying it for a reason. And there's going to be a reason that's going to be declared very soon. Yes, it is owned by BMW. That's why I know. But isn't that a little bit shocking, you know? That the chassis is BMW. Same as Lambo, yes, same as Audi, because the parts are all owned by Volkswagen. I know. No one. All right, let me bring it to you like this. What about the M6 Toll in the UK? That was British owned and they sold it. Never mind. Anything else? Gold is tricky. It would need to break 3,666 to go higher, in my opinion, but still. Gold is not a technical play right now. Gold is a sentiment play. Gold is a sentiment play. That's what it is. Gold is all about, again, let me explain this so you can get the idea of what's going on with gold. Subject to interest rate increase, decrease, okay? When the interest rates are increased, gold goes down because money goes into the dollar. When interest rates go down, money goes into gold, okay? Now, equally, what you got to look for is when gold consolidates, they're preparing for the next hedge. You've heard me say this before. When gold consolidates, they're preparing for the next hedge. What's the next hedgeable event? Interest rates. From now until October, we're going to be getting bouts of data, and funnily enough, Japan even said it last night. The yen climbed as much as 0.5% after two dissenters opposed the decision to hold, but gave up the game when Governor Kazuo Ueda said he needs more data. This brother's listening to Powell too much, all right? He needs more data before deciding next steps, seemingly downplaying the chance of an October hike. That effectively means that we don't have to worry about the carry trade. So what's going to happen? Quickly school you on it. Now, dollar dominance is going up, okay? Awesome. What does that mean? It means that the yen is going down. So they're borrowing yen because they know the interest rate on the yen is going to stay at the level that it's at. So I'm going to borrow yen and I'm going to sell it and then go over to dollars and then take those dollars and shove it in the stock market. NASDAQ at all-time high on an appreciation of the US dollar. But remember, Bitcoin can also go up against the US dollar, even though it's paired against it. The actual value of the US dollar is depreciated, okay? So you just need more dollars to buy Bitcoin in principle, all right? So even though dollar is up, you're seeing Bitcoin is coming back. It can easily move back up against the US dollar because it's the value of the dollar. It's so low, so it doesn't matter because we have that disparity where dollar down, Bitcoin up, dollar down. But because your dollar's appreciation is zilch, okay, it's not trading above 100, so there's no percentile appreciation on your purchasing power. It means that you can now see Bitcoin starting to move up. Why do you think the stock market's going up on the back of the dollar going down? Because the idea of value is we've got lots of money. We need more dollars to transact on it. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go and sell some euros, buy a ton load of dollars, and then I'll put those dollars to work. All right. And that's the cycle that's been going off. All right. Gold is doing the classic parabolic blow off top. It will go back under 3K. Well, yeah, it's in when the next hedgeable event comes in. Yes, I agree. Because you've got to look at the hedging index itself. Like if we just go over to this chart over here, let's just go and have a look at this. If we got the gold hedgers index, right? So look at this. Gold hedgers position. All right. Come on. Come on. Market open? Yep, market's open. Okay, cool. So look at this, right? The green dotted line is the one standard deviation above the 3-year average. The red dotted line is the one standard deviation below the 3-year average. And the way you've got to look at this chart is where are commercial players? And this is obviously a little bit of a long term. It says here, commercial hedgers, commonly believed to be the smart money. These traders involved in day-to-day operations of each commodity. They have an excellent hand on the underlying market. Now, it says here, commercial hedgers are considered the smart money. When hedgers become net long to an extreme degree above the green dotted line, then we should be looking for price of the commodity to rise. The opposite is true when they become so hedged that the position falls below the red dotted line, okay? So we know that they're effectively in between, but close towards this red dotted line. So they're starting to mark gold's price lower in preparation for the hedge before the next event comes into play. And then everything starts to go up in the sense of gold. You can see right now, it's just shooting up on the grounds of the interest rate decrease. That's what's fueling it. But take away the interest rate increase. That's when you start seeing hedging coming into play with gold. Okay. Now, quickly going into Bitcoin, what's it doing? Testing that psychological high. Very interesting play right there. It's Baldino. Yes, it is Baldino. Using Monday, Tino, using Monday Asian session strategy. Do you mark the Asian on the Sunday open towards Monday or the Asian on the Monday towards Tuesday? Okay. So first things first, you wait. The best way for you to do it is just take the high and the low that's formed on Monday. That's all you've got to do. Okay. So that would be hypothetically this one here. Take that high, take that low, and work your ranges. All right. The problem is, the wider the range of the Asian session at the start of the week, the more likely you're going to need larger price movements to get understanding of what price is likely to do. Okay. For example, if you look at this, we called this low on Monday last week. All right. We called the low of the week right here. And it was on the basis that price was going to sustain itself inside of this range. Okay. Now, on the Traders Reality website, there is a section called the PDF library. If you're a platinum member, you get access to that. And it has a checklist on there, and it's checklist number 1. And that breaks down this whole logic about the Asian session range and its importance. But let me explain it to you briefly here. You can see the Asian session high, Asian session low, right? Wait for that to form. Then how price behaves in and around the range of Asia is going to dictate if this is going to be the low of the week or the high of the week. Okay. And you can see here that on the Wednesday, they shifted away from that vector candle principle. They couldn't break the Asian session low, and then they traded away for the rest of the week from that range. Go and find another range on the Asian session. Here you go, Monday. Let's do it again. You can see wide range on the Asian session range in comparison to this one over here, which was relatively small. You can see here, they come away inside of that range. They traded away from it. The first second it trades away from it to the upside, you're looking for the retest to confirm that the interest that was happening in the Asian session range at the start of the week is going to be the area that they built their positions and what they favor to do to the upside or to the downside. In this instance, you can see they come away from it, retraced into it, red candle, green candle formation. That gives you the clue that there is favor to it. And then they move away from it for the rest of the week. And then, of course, you've got that big move Wednesday, and then they come down. Look at how they test that range. That is despicable. What was that? What was it? Forget it, whether it be a Fibonacci. It doesn't matter what level are you drawing the Fibonacci from, okay? You could have drawn it from up there, but you're adding more context to it because, look, not because of the fib, but because of the idea that in this area here, they tested it, broke away from it, come down into it, moved away, vector recovery, market memory, shift out to the upside, red vector candle, up she goes. This is the same shit that we talk about every single day. Every single day. You've just got to try and pinpoint it. You get the clues on the vector candles that this is something that could happen. Violet vector candle down to the downside. What does that tell you? It means that volume is starting to get a bit above average, but it can also imply that it's slowing down because the red vector candle started up here, slowed down here. So volume's not transacting as much. Yeah? That's the importance of the Asian session range. It works at a number every single time. Here we go. One more. This is on Bitcoin. How you can establish support and resistance with it. There's your Asian session range. Okay. Now look at it. Price comes in back into it, moves away from it on the Monday with the New York session. Tuesday brings it back up, consolidates inside of there. Now you're coming to the chart looking at this saying, is it a test of the 200 EMA? Oh, we'll trade the moving averages. Or what is it? If they favor to mark it down from that high aggressively, and they did the same thing in the New York session over here, and then they tried the same thing again over here, logic says that you're going to expect it to try and come back down away from that zone because that would be an assumed area of resistance. Take your shorts, set your exits, and then happy days, you're trading the logic of the Asian session range because there was an aggressive move away from that zone at some point in the marketplace. So they prepared the positions and then they marked it lower. They came back up above it from the same area they sold from and they aggressively broke it each time on vector candles. This is stuff you can just go over and over and over. Go back in the charts, mark the high and low of Asia on Monday and just study what chart the price does. Correlate it to where we are on a macroeconomic perspective, all right? And you'll start to understand the importance of that range. And it just ends up becoming the whole range. And look, they started again and then they moved away from it. Test, up they go. So it's something you just really want to be paying attention to, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we are technically stuck inside of the Asian session range at the start of the week, which means it's a dead week for me. Bitcoin really hasn't done anything. It's just been moving up and down, and you've got to try and scout these sort of ranges. But this could be accumulation. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Like, it really does protect you from getting exposed to certain plays in cryptocurrency, all right, depending on the asset, especially for Bitcoin. If you were trying to work out if you were going to buy Bitcoin this week and you said to yourself, right, I'm going to wait to see if price can break away from the Asian session range to the upside or to the downside. Well, if you did buy Bitcoin inside of this range, you would see some profits, but you can see that it's come back into that. Look, that test right there. What is that? What is that test? What is this test? There is something about the Asian session range that forms at the start of a trading week. It's the first high and the first low that's formed, okay? On Monday, it's the start when all markets are open or got access to. So they react to those levels. Capish? Capish, capish, capish. What? Hey, Tina, I've got some rabbit question if you're interested. Do you think S&P price to sales ratio will come down at some point? 3.2 is the high than 2008 crash. Bear with me a second. All I need to do is look at this. Yep. Listen, I'm going to give you this, right? 2007, 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. Said it in the title. Subprime mortgage crisis. Crisis. There was a problem with lending. Do we have a problem with lending? No. The only problem that we have is the fact that the US government is borrowing too much money. All right? Why do you think they moved away from the gold standard? Anyone that owes US money or anyone that the US owes money to, what do you think they're going to say to them? Come on, man. We owe you in our currency. Shut up. We don't need to pay you. All right? Fundamentally, what happened then is not happening now. We had a recession? Nope. Is it hidden? Probably. Are we seeing really any delinquencies in payments? Well, we saw that yesterday. But we don't really have that many delinquencies coming into play in terms of credit cards and mortgages and what have you. Mortgage rates are going down. Why would you see a high rise in delinquencies in mortgages when the rates for mortgages are down, okay? Then they're saying that we do have some delinquencies coming into play when 49% of all the consumer spending has come from the top 10% wealthy people. So do we really need to be thinking about the consumer? Clear as day, we don't. Because if the data that they're giving us is suggesting the economy is sustaining itself on the top 10% of individuals spending money, cool. Drop the rates, let them pay for it. You know? So it's one of those ones. Quantum computing is ripping. Yep, I'm going to check it one more time for you all and then let you guys be. Been talking about QBTS. You guys get some flavor from me. I know you guys have been getting, we were talking about quantum. I've been giving you the heads up. If anyone has bought this stock at the time we mentioned it, please tell me now if you've got it. I'd love to know if you're holding some profits right now. Yes, credit card delinquency is sort of on the rise. It's sort of on the rise, but nothing to a point where we need to be concerned about it. Hey, Tina, why buy Circle now when Fed pivot rate cuts is things normally correct? Right, listen, they do normally correct. But the difference between a Fed pivot, okay, now compared to the one that we had before is the prospect of more. That's the issue we've got. We don't know the full path. They're just beating around the bush with it. We'll give you your 2-3 rate cuts, but it's data dependent. What they should be saying is this. We're going to give you a rate cut now, which is what you've got. We're going to then give you a rate cut in October, and then we're going to give you a rate cut in December. After that, we're done. When the market knows that, they can price it in. What's everyone been talking about? They've been talking about that the 25 basis point cut has been priced in. So the market's been going up because it's information they know, right? They've priced it in. But now we're like, well, we might need a bit of data before we can actually give you more rate cuts because we still got inflation. We've still got the problem that the PCE is coming in at 2.9%. It's the first time in 30 years that the Federal Reserve has cut the interest rates with high inflation. Don't make me pull out my chart. No, don't make me do that. That will just put everything in the bin. It will nip it in the bud on what's going to happen next. But historically, whenever they do cut, the markets do correct. Is this the blow off top? Maybe. Because the slower that NASDAQ climbs, the more likely there's going to be an event that's going to come into play which will switch it. For me, it might be the carry trade unwind, okay? Because the dollar's appreciation is coming up. But remember, Japan can't have the dollar going up too much. Quickly, just to put it into perspective for you. The US dollar itself, where are we? Dollar yen. It's going up. Anything above 150, Japan starts to get a little bit concerned about it. Right now, we're at 147. Happy days. We're cool, okay? I got it at $15. Well done, Ultima. Well done. I did buy bullish at your mention this week, up 31%. Thanks, Tino. Brandon, you know what? I will end the live on there. Happy days. He bought bullish on our recommendation, and he's made 31%. Pay yourself, my dear bro. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, subscribe. It's free to do, and I'll be tuning into you all on Monday. Take care of yourselves, gang. Peace. That was a long-ass wink. Sorry.